Hi, folks. My name is Eric Barnett, and I'm a singer-songwriter based out of Charleston, South Carolina, and you're listening to Songs of the Unsung. Songs of the Unsung is a podcast where I talk to fellow singer-songwriters about their influences, their process, and the songs they've written. We also host a monthly live original music showcase. The next showcase is January 23rd at Freehouse Brewery from 2 to 5 p.m. On the bill is Dan Riley, Chris Dodson, and Scotty Oliver. Freehouse is an organic brewery, taproom, and outdoor beer garden situated on the banks of the historic and natural Ashley River. We brew beer as we wish it to be, organic, local, and seasonal. With over 24 taps, including gluten-free options and house-made organic lemonade, we have something for all palates. Freehouse is open to everyone and welcomes all guests with a smile and a cold beer. Inquire about hosting your event or special occasion with us at info@freehousebeer.com. This week's guest is Chris Dodson. Chris is one of the busiest musicians here in Charleston, not only playing around town as a solo musician, but in various duos and trios, including Return of the Mac and Me and Mr. Jones. In addition to the many gigs around town, Chris is also a guitar instructor and a prolific recording artist, releasing 2 albums and many singles. If you like what you hear, be sure to come out to Freehouse on January 23rd to our second Songwriter Showcase. But for now, enjoy my conversation with Chris Dodson. Hey Chris, how you doing today?
Hey Eric, thanks for having me, man. I'm great. How are you?
I am good. Thanks for coming out.
This is such a pleasure to be out here, and thanks for working with my schedule. And I appreciate you being flexible.
Yeah, no problem, man. I know you're one of the busier fellas here in Charleston, so I appreciate you taking the time to come over and talk about
Absolutely.
your music.
I love your setup here. Beautiful. I love all the guitars. This is my kind of man cave.
I'm very lucky to have a wife that agreed to let me take the largest bedroom in the house and fill it with instruments. Wow. It's, you know as well as I do, being a musician, having a very patient wife is the way to go. It's a rarity and a gift.
Yeah, man. I got a wife like that too. I have my own man cave, a recording studio, guitars everywhere, amps, more recording equipment like this.
Yeah, right on.
I love this. This is SM7 or 7B?
7B, yeah.
This is the microphone to do a podcast with.
Yeah, right now I just have one of them, but this is sort of a shoestring thing at the time. So I think this is the first time we've really formally met.
Yep.
There's a couple times that I've been passing through downtown and like seen you play. I saw you play at the Grand Bohemian one time. You were just out playing and you were busy doing your thing, so I didn't want to walk up and introduce myself. I always feel weird when people do that when I'm playing. But yeah, man, you're playing all over the place, not only solo, but with many of the projects you're in.
Yeah.
Tell me a little about some of the projects you're in.
So I've got a wedding band, which I'm playing with today. I've been trying to promote that for the past year, and it's just going to keep growing, I believe. It's called Return of the Mac, and it's capital M, capital A, capital C. The M stands for Marky or Mookie. Yeah. The A stands for Elise, who's the female singer, and the C stands for me, Chris. So we do a lot of, we do everything. We do Motown, a lot of top 40. We specialize in a lot of 90s music, which is why we're called Return of the Mac. Right on. And it just kind of fit, serendipitous, very, just worked out well that, the drummer's name, that the acronym worked out well with the 3 main members of the band. Yeah. It just worked all well together. So, and then I've got Me and Mr. Jones, which is with Miss Elise Marie Rogers. That's a side project where it's just more or less it's a duo. It can be a full band. She more or less she runs that band. I got you. I'm the guitar player. I'm Mr. Jones, and she rotates guitar players when I can't make it.
I was wondering because actually last night I played at the Whiskey Room over at Henry's,
and you saw her last night.
I saw her downstairs
with Colin.
And I was like, I think Chris is in that. So I went down there. I was like, That's not Chris.
No, that's not me.
But yeah, I think
I love Colin, but that's not me.
You were playing somewhere else last night, weren't you?
Yeah, I was at Uncork solo gig.
Nice.
I love that place. It's really laid back, great crowd. I love the wine bar scene. I've been doing this since 2000, like professionally, since 2006. And, and I did a lot of dive bars and college bars. And I worked at the Post and Courier during the day when I was 23 through 29. And I would play gigs at night and then go to work the next day. Sometimes hungover, sometimes not, 5-6 hours of sleep. But I was in my 20s then.
Yeah.
Now since the pandemic, I've gotten it's funny. 2020 gave me the best gigs of my life.
Did it?
And I'm just kind of not trying to play these late night gigs anymore.
Yeah, actually last night was my first time ever at Henry's, and it was like till 1.
Yeah.
And my bedtime's like 9 usually, because I don't do music full time. I work a day job, so I'm up at like 5:30 every morning.
My God.
Yeah.
Well,
but, I mean, it was a Friday, so it wasn't a school night.
I want people to know that I do not sleep in hardly. Okay, I have 3 dogs. I take them out every morning.
Wow.
They do their business. I feed them, of course.
Yeah.
I don't sleep in. I don't. I'd love to sleep in, but I get up. I write it in a journal. I plan out my day. I have the same thing for breakfast every morning. And I get my mind right, and it's very rare that I get to sleep in. And when I do, it's so glorious.
Yeah.
But then I kind of feel guilty because I'm just like, oh man, I got so much work to do. Why am I sleeping? But my body needs it sometimes. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh yeah. It's usually my body's trained to where I'm up at 6, even on a weekend it's 6 or it's 7, but. I don't know. Every now and then, I'm just so exhausted that my body's just like, "Hey, we're not getting out of bed yet."
No,
man. I'll tell you, you're playing with all the groups. You're playing all the solo gigs. You're playing private events, weddings, teaching. Doing. Man, you must be like a productivity kind of guy.
Yeah, I like to stay active, Eric.
Yeah.
I do have some leisure time. So, for example, in the summertime, on Mondays, which is what I consider my Friday, my weekend.
Yep.
And a lot of musicians feel that way too.
Yep.
I like to go out and get some vitamin D at the pool where I live. It's a community pool. I like to sit there, but I'm also listening to podcasts when I'm doing that. So I'm doing something like I do sit around and look at my phone like this,
Right.
And, I kind of get involved with Facebook, and, I do have time to look at memes and mess around. But I mean, I have goals. I have an agenda. I got a vision board.
Oh, nice.
I am inspired by a lot of people in Charleston. People, there's certain people that put that light of fire up my ass, basically.
Yeah.
Part of my French, but I see people moving and shaking. And I'm like, I got to do that better.
Yeah. No, I feel you.
So when I'm not gigging, when I'm not teaching, when I'm not trying to be a really good husband and a stepfather and to my dogs, when I'm not doing anything outside, during the day, I spend about 3 to 4 hours in my studio producing, writing, working on jingles, commercial music, original music, being mentored in this group that I'm in to try and get sync publishing, licensing. So I've got I don't tell too many people this, but I've got goals. I mean, other than I don't want to be a gigging musician the rest of my life. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm always going to perform. Yeah. And I respect people like my drummer, Marky Morant. Shout out to Marky. Yeah. He's been working his ass off since he was a kid. And we had a long conversation about this. But he's going to be working for the rest of his life. He said he has no plans to ever stop. His father was a famous trumpet player up in New York City and worked until pretty much his last years. And he was 81 or 82 years old. So there really is no retirement in this kind of business. But
the beauty about music too is it's not like other professions where it takes on your body the way it would normally do. Except, playing 3-hour gigs, standing up every night gets old.
Look, yeah.
But it's something you can do well until your twilight years. And since music is always a learning, evolving thing for the individual, you owe it to yourself to do it as long as you can and see where it takes you,
Yeah. Look, I'm going to be honest. Being a musician is not easy. You got to get up there and singing for, 2.5 hours with 2 breaks, which makes it 3, and then setting up and breaking down. That's exhausting. It's exhausting. I've had to have surgery on my vocal cords because I treated them so bad in the past. I had a little small node that could have gotten worse, but I prevented it. So I went ahead and just got the surgery. I could have gotten rid of it with rest, but there was just no way of taking 2 months off.
I got you. Yeah.
There's just no way. I can't afford it. So I dropped $1,200 to get the surgery with my insurance that I'm paying for. And
music really doesn't come with its own built-in health insurance and everything involved, man.
No.
And what a lot of people don't understand is you might only be scheduled to play for a 3-hour block, but that doesn't include load in, load out time. That doesn't include dealing with Charleston traffic. That doesn't include all the time you spent learning those songs, practicing those songs. You had to buy all of that PA and all that stuff, and it's not something like, it's also one of the greatest jobs in the world, I think.
It is. It's
when you have a good night of playing music, you walk away from it saying, I really love that I do this. But when you have a bad night of playing music, it can feel other ways. However, it's just really good to keep in mind.
At the end of the day, it's still a great job.
It's still playing music, yeah.
It's still better than being at a desk like this all day, sitting. Yeah. But, hey, there's a lot of people out there that make a good living doing that, so I respect that. I did it for a long time, and I got fed up. I got really depressed and anxious, and, was thinking things that I shouldn't be thinking, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to jump, and I think I've got the skills to be a full-time musician. I think I've got enough income where I can support myself and more. And I did it, and it was the best decision of my life, at least top 3.
Right on. Let's rewind just a little bit here and talk about kind of how this whole thing happened. You had a really good interview that I saw on YouTube, a MUFIC interview. You were interviewed by Kevin Church.
Yeah.
And I'm not
great guy, Kevin Church.
Oh yeah. Check out Kevin Church. I always give him a shout out if I'm watching.
Great songwriter.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not going to try to replace that. Everybody should go watch that MUFIC interview. I've got it in, I'm going to put a link to it in the show notes here. So I'll say watch that, then pick up where we left off here. Originally from Beaufort.
Yep.
Really quick, started with violin, then through to French horn, then over to upright bass. Finally, guitar comes along.
Yep. 1995 summer, 13 years old. Sister brought it home from a friend. I immediately fell in love with it. I started teaching myself power chords. That's the first thing I learned. It was like Nirvana, Green Day, Weezer.
Well, 1995 was a great time to have an electric guitar.
It really was, man. But this guitar was a piece of shit, man. It was a gremlin. It literally was a gremlin. Yeah. That's what it was called.
See, though, it is also sort of nice to learn on a terrible guitar.
Absolutely.
Because if you can finally get to the point where you do what you want to do, then somebody hands you a good guitar. It's like, baseball players warming up in the batting circle with the donut on. They take the weight off the end of it, and it just smooth sailing.
Absolutely. Man, I look at the guitars that I have now and what I started with, and it's been 25 years in the making. That's what it's been. That's what it's all about. Nothing happens right away. No, there's no such thing as an overnight success. It just takes years and years and years of practice to where you want to be. And where I'm at now in my life, where I want to be, it's probably going to take another 20 years, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. It's knowing, like, having a goal. You got to have a goal, or you won't reach it. You got to tell the world what you want, or you can't expect to get it from it. So initially playing guitar, I know you going from violin to upright bass, you were used to stringed instruments. You were fretting strings. At least when you were on the upright bass, those 4 strings were the same.
Yep. So it was very easy to transition to guitar.
Yeah.
The callus was already there. Strings were obviously a lot thinner.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to learn how to play guitar, electric guitar is the way to go first.
Sure.
It's the easiest way. Let me just say it's the easiest way. Now, if you want to learn on acoustic, that's great.
Yep.
It'll be a lot easier to transition to electric guitar. But yeah, I already knew how to read music.
Okay.
I was already, I had some understanding of rhythm. I had already had the callus, I knew the strings. I just had it in my hands. I just did a lot of practice. I was, you got to be at least mildly obsessed with the instrument to be good at something.
Yeah.
Or anything,
Did you have any teachers?
Let's see. In the beginning, I did not. I taught myself.
Okay.
And then I had a teacher in Beaufort named Craig Washington, the late Craig Washington, no longer with us, but fantastic guitar player. Learned a lot from him. I took lessons from Lee Barber for 4 years, James Slater for 3 years here in Charleston to learn jazz, which I learned so much about jazz, but I'm not really a jazz player, but I understand it all though.
Yeah, but it's important. Like I always say, like, learn theory so you can learn when to ignore it.
Yeah.
But just having those basic building blocks of theory, and I absolutely don't know all that I want to know or need to know. I actually went to music school for trumpet. I went to college as a trumpet major, and it made me hate playing trumpet the way they tried to.
How do they teach you how to play? What's the process of majoring in a brass instrument compared to the guitar?
It's I don't know like what guitar actually is in terms of what they have you do, but there's kind of 2 paths you can take on a brass instrument. There's jazz and there's classical. And I kind of defaulted more to a classical. I never really knew much in terms of improvisation on trumpet. And then when you go to a classical, there's all kinds of different styles within the classical genre as well. I had a trumpet teacher in high school that was Italian, and their trumpet, at least with brass instruments, the Italian method, as it were, has a very specific approach to like phrasing and vibrato and stuff like that. And then when I went to college, they were like, hey, we don't do that. We got to do this whole other thing. And I was already loving guitar. I have way more fun playing. You get more girls playing guitar. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Well, it's a chordal instrument. You can write songs with it. You can be your own orchestra with it. With the trumpet, I love the trumpet. I love every instrument. Let's be honest. I'm a fanatic music person, but yeah, guitar is just the coolest. It's the coolest instrument.
It really is. Yeah. So initially had a few guitar teachers. Do you ever envy the generation that gets YouTube?
Yeah, we didn't have that growing up. YouTube. I started using YouTube as a tool for music probably like 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
When it was really, I think it came out in 2004 or 5, but I didn't start using it, to start learning, watching interviews and using backing tracks until about 2006, 2007. No. Yeah, I envy them. With YouTube and social media, you get to see how many great musicians there are out there. There's a 9-year-old Korean girl who's could kick my ass at guitar, know?
Well, and I know I'm not going to do a whole generational thing where I say, these guys have it easy or what have you, because YouTube can also be such a huge distraction.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a huge distraction, and it's sobering. It can be sobering.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's also, man, I've learned so much from Rick Beato. I don't know if you ever watch him.
Yep.
A lot of motivational speakers, a lot of music theory. Learned a lot about the Beatles, just from YouTube, because they're my favorite band. I've learned so much. You can hear isolated tracks on YouTube, and it's just awesome. I'm such a
nerd about the Beatles, just because, even though I went to school for trumpet, I wanted a recording major. Yeah. And the school I went to didn't have one. They're like, well, maybe we'll let you write one, and we have recording classes. But I would rather, I know you see a lot of guitars and stuff here, but if I had my druthers, I'd love to be a producer. Like, and we'll get to talking about producing, because I know that's something you're super into. But what really opened my eyes to what you could do musically did come from the Beatles, and come from the way that, it was four guys that basically started out as a pretty standard rock band that worked really, really hard.
Yep.
Got to the point where they found a person in George Martin that said, this is what's available. I didn't know if you guys knew, but this is what you can do. And then they said, well, okay, let's put that into our songwriting. Yeah. And then just an 8-year evolution. A lot of people don't realize, A, everything you hear of the Beatles pretty much happened in 8 years.
8 years.
And then B, they were under 30 when they broke up.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were 20. The oldest, Ringo and John, were 28 when they broke up.
Yeah.
It's funny. The Beatles are they're artists. They have artist period. They have Mop Top period. Their Sgt. Pepper period. Their psychedelic period. And then their hippie period. And then
it was
back
almost
to their
a year.
roots.
It was almost every year. And the world
they put out 3-4 albums per year.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody does that anymore.
And the world turned on what they did.
Yeah.
They may say, okay, Pet Sounds influenced Sgt. Pepper or what have you, but...
Well, Pet Sounds was influenced by Rubber Soul.
Yeah. It's...
So, let's not get... Yeah.
Yeah, anytime the Beatles... and this is just me being a complete Beatles fan, but anytime somebody says Stones or Beatles, I'm like, that's obvious. It's Beatles.
Yeah, because they had more of had a broader spectrum of music. I mean, I love the Stones. I love the Stones, man.
Oh, I did. I saw them like 3 weeks ago, and they still got it, man.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that the Stones have over the Beatles is they've been together longer. They've been doing more. They're a live band, They're a rock
band. Yeah,
the Beatles were recording artists.
Yes,
That's what they were.
Maybe the first, truly beginning to end recording artists. Yeah,
but it's really hard to find a bad Beatles song, and I can find a lot of bad Rolling Stones songs.
Yeah, they didn't dilute by longevity. They didn't dilute their catalog.
It's amazing that the way how they remembered all their songs, because I have a problem remembering the songs that I write and have to use voice memo.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great tool. Like, imagine back when everything was huge and reel to reel and that whole thing.
Imagine all the melodies that escaped them that they couldn't even write.
Yeah,
that are out there in thin air now.
I'll take like 3 of those if they just could give them to me.
The worst Beatles song is probably better than any song that I've ever written. It's so sad, but
so they were an early influence, obviously. That continues on through today.
So to be honest with you, the Beatles was the first recollection of music I ever had. I saw Hard Day's Night in the late '80s on the Disney Channel, and then my mom recorded the Beatles cartoon that came out on the Disney Channel. So 8 Days a Week was like the first song I ever that stuck in my head. Like, that was the first melodic song. And then I was a really, really big classical fan. I was like obsessed with Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, Nat King Cole, Leonard Bernstein. I mean, I'm huge into classical. I didn't really get into like rock music until about 1993 or 2.
Okay.
So when I was like 10, 11 years old, but guitar influenced music until about 19 when I picked up the guitar in 95.
Right on, man. I'll show you when we're done. The first time I ever really sat down and heard music, there were 2 Beatles 45s that my grandma had.
Yeah.
And she would always play them for me. And the last time I went home, I was at my grandpa's house. She's passed away. And I found those 45s, and I have them framed now, and it's like I still have like my first experience to music, which to me is like such a special thing.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
I think I read somewhere you list your current influences. You included like Stevie Wonder in there.
Yep, I could tell. I can go down the list.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stuck for the pretty long time. We got the Beatles, of course, Stevie Wonder, Prince, John Mayer, and Sting.
Okay.
So as far as pop music, that's the Mount Rushmore of my influences for pop music.
So it slid into the direction of, a lot of the time people sort of look down their nose when something's a little too polished. There's quote rock, man, there's nothing wrong with making something sound just as good as it can sound. You know what I mean?
No, there's a difference between a great production and too overproduced music.
Right.
There's a lot of the music today that would be considered overproduced with the auto-tune, but that's the new sound. That's what it is.
Yeah. And you always got to remember, when people look back on a certain era and they want to circle that and they say, well, that's the era. That was the pop music of the day. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was... People look at old country music and they say, well, those were the outlaws. No, they weren't. They were the pop musicians of their day and of their place and of their time.
I mean, look at the 1980s. During that time, people were like, man, that's too much, the synthesizer sound. That's just way too much. And now we look back and holy shit, man, that's such great production back then.
Oh, yeah, dude. Like, for me, like, I'll go listen to, like, some Cars.
Yeah, the Cars or, old Madonna, like the Niles Rodgers stuff,
Yeah.
Just the way it was produced, the guitar work, the funk, the synthesizers. I mean, the Duran, all that stuff was...
Oh, tight as can be, man. And that was before they were, like, being able to slide stuff around on a grid in Pro Tools.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can't even fathom how they did that back then, because now it's just... You could just load up so many tracks and plugins. And
they used to be able to, like, sync things on tape. And the idea... the idea that people could sync something on analog tape is just blows my mind, man.
I just can't even fathom how the hell they would do that, man. But that's kudos to them,
So when did you move to Charleston?
I moved to Charleston officially in 2004. So I moved down here in the summer of 2003 for the summer during college. And then I got really well acquainted with the area, and then came back in 2004 and pretty much stayed the whole time. Yeah, I haven't left. From 2004 to 2013, I had a day job, corporate job.
Yeah.
But I was also playing at night.
Okay.
And then on August 13th, 2013 is the day I said, you know what, I'm not playing.
Wow.
I mean, I'm not working anymore, 9 to 5. I'm never going to fill out another W-2. I'm done.
That's awesome.
I'm done. And
W-9's here on out.
Yeah, W-9. Yep. And it'll be 9 years this coming year. And it was the best. I've never made any more. I've made so much money. I've never been happier. I mean, there's been days and weeks where I've been completely stressed out and thinking, what the hell am I doing with my life?
I imagine, like, right initially at the beginning of that pandemic, you were just like, okay, this might be tough.
Yeah. Okay. So St. Patrick's Day was the day that everything was the last day the bars were open, right? And they closed down the very next day. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, all right, well, I can teach virtually for right now. I'm going to use that stimulus money.
Yep.
My wife's got a job. We can survive. Let's see how long this lasts, And then all of April, nothing happened. I mean, there was no gigs. But I would say the first week of April, I had this crazy idea to start doing neighborhood parties and singing telegrams. Uh-huh. And it just I kind of posted it on social media. I've got the post somewhere on Instagram. I saved it. And it just blew up, man. I was able to pay my rent, pay my bills with it. And then when the bars opened up that third week of May, and everything started opening up, I just started getting busy again. By July of 2020, things were just almost back to normal. In fact, I had better gigs than I'd ever had in my life. I had nothing but restaurant. People were just wanting to get out and have fun and do something. Right. Everybody was just kind of cabin feverish.
Been cooped up for cooped up. I've noticed everybody who's made it through this pandemic still going, and that includes businesses. They've figured out how to reinvent their game. I mean, you had musicians live streaming for the first time. Yeah. I did like a weekly live stream. Mm-hmm. You had looking at other types of revenue. That's like you said, looking at the telegrams, you're even looking at sync licensing and stuff. Wonderful part about a sync licensing or when you have stuff out there streaming is that just generates money. It just sits there and sends you a little bit every now and then.
Let me give some advice to musicians out there.
Yeah.
Find a way to get residual income.
Yeah.
Find a way. Don't rely on gigs, because look what happened last year. I'm not going to lie, man. For a couple of weeks there, I was kind of enjoying not having to do anything. Okay.
Yeah.
Waking up, watching Netflix. I mean, the Tiger King was like the big thing, right?
Yeah.
Catching up on old episodes of whatever. But, that gets old after a while. I need to be stimulated, man.
Well, I saw you really started releasing like a lot of singles in that.
I was so I released 8 singles in 2020. I was going to do an album, but it just made more sense finance wise, but money wise. But I just released 8 singles, and I look back at 2020 as a very unique time of my life. I learned a lot about myself. Yeah, my marriage got stronger. My craft, just everything just got better. A
lot of times you need forced to do something like that. You're like, if everything is going well on what you're doing, you're not really going to reinvent yourself. You got to get backed into a corner and say, it's do this, or it's do this to survive, which in a way the people that have evolved have come out better for the...
Well, I mean, it's the people that survived the pandemic are the ones that really did something during that time. There are a lot of musicians that just sat back and said, I'm not, I'm a musician, I'm gonna, that's all I'm gonna do. But they didn't branch out. They didn't change with the times, and some of them are not working anymore.
Yeah. Let's talk about your recordings.
Okay.
Anybody can go on any of the streaming platforms and check out. You have 2 albums, and is it 8 singles in total, or was that just 8 during 2020?
Okay, so I've got 8 songs from my first album, 8 from 2020, and then 8 from my new album, which was released earlier this year. Yep. Produced by Mr. Kevin Church.
Oh yeah.
We got into my studio. It was mainly just the 2 of us. Excuse me. It was mainly just the 2 of us. Except I brought in some, it was all real instruments. Yeah. I did all the harmonies. Yeah. I wanted to make it as natural as possible, because my first album, or actually all the stuff that I did in 2020 was very overproduced. A lot of MIDI, a lot of synth. You were
having fun though. I mean,
I was having so much fun.
I could tell just by number one, all the people you were having collaborate with you. Yeah. All the different styles that you were saying, I'm going to try. And the wonderful part about a single is you can put on a different hat for one song and then pivot. You know what I mean? So I could tell you were having a lot of fun, because you're like, I'm going to try this now. And, the wonderful thing about music and the internet and Spotify and not being held by a record label telling you what to do is you can do whatever you want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The first record, Sincerely.
Yes.
Recorded in a studio?
Yeah, it was recorded in Brian Jarvis's house, who's in Midnight City. That was back downtown when he lived downtown. Lee Barber produced it. That was a lot of fun. Man, it was scary because I'd never really done any kind of recording in my life. Really? So I learned a lot about myself. Being in that vocal booth was nerve-wracking. It was hell, man. I hated it. Now, recording guitars, I can do that all day long.
Well, that's your wheelhouse.
It's my wheelhouse. But recording vocals... I mean, I'm going to be honest, man. I'm not that great of a singer. I mean, there's so many better singers out there, but man, I had a lot of fun doing it. It's probably my best sounding album because I had so many people working on it. And but my newer album, I was more comfortable. I had me and Kevin were like tight, man. We were just working with somebody that I completely trusted, and he was a great producer. He told me what sucked and what didn't. He helped me with my lyrics. He helped me with arranging some tunes. Nice. And I'm very proud of every song that I've released. I mean, I'm not going to release something that I think is mediocre. Everything that I've released is because I think it's great.
Awesome. That first record, who were some of the people that played on that?
So we got Beatman, Shelton, Dasha Shore on drums. We had Tristan Simmons on bass. Of course, Lee did some bass work. Lee did a lot of guitar work on there. I did a lot of guitar work. Manny Houston on some background vocals. Andrea Dunning on some background vocals. Emily Curtis she did 3 background vocals. I can't even talk right now.
Yeah, it's early.
Yeah, it's early. Let's see. Well, who else? God, I
always lament, like, the one thing about digital that I don't love is I'm a liner notes guy. Being, like, into producers and into seeing who plays on what. I miss the liner notes. I wish, like, you know, I love having music in my pocket, and that's what I listen to 99.9% of music on. But I miss having all that because I wouldn't have to ask you. I'd be looking at that stuff already.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I have to go to Wikipedia now to look at anything, like who did what on what, and sometimes it's not even there. And I want to know who played guitar on this part. You know?
Yeah. But sometimes you hear something, and then you look at those liner notes, and you're like, oh, yeah, that does sound like such and such. And it makes it all make sense, you know? Any standout songs for you off the first record?
Yeah, there's 4, actually. Honest Love, which is the first track. I wrote that melody back in 2005. I had different lyrics for it, and then I rewrote it in about 10 years later, basically. Let's see. She Calls Home, which is the second track, which is actually the song I'm going to play today for you guys. Because the reason being is because on Monday, I'm leaving for Arkansas tomorrow morning. I'm flying, that's where my wife's from. And I'm filming a music video for the song.
Oh, nice.
In Arkansas, because that's what the song is about. It's about my wife coming back to Arkansas after a long period of not being there. And let's see. And then we've got Live Your Way, which is a nice gospel-y kind of song about just motivating yourself to be better. And then Never Fall Asleep, which is a very 80s sounding tune. I wanted to write a song or have a song on my album that sounded like the year that I was born, which is 1982. So it sounds very 1980s, early 1980s. And Emily Curtis sings back up on that. And Lee Barber did such a great job producing that song. I'm so proud of it because it doesn't sound like anything I've ever done. It's a stand-alone song. And, man, just hearing it through headphones gives me goosebumps every time I hear it.
Nice. Well, while we're talking about it, why don't you go ahead and play She Calls Home?
Okay. All right, Eric, thanks for having me. Pack your bags, it's time to go. You and me, let's hit the road. Arkansas, where she belongs. Green hills and mountain skies, home cooking Christmas lights, subtle snow. She is home. It's been too long to see these memories. Open skies, don't apologize for last time. Grind moaning behind a home, horses roaming all alone. Stay in the middle of me, unknown, a natural state. She calls home. A big old dog in your lap, family dinner, heavy nap. Arkansas, so withdrawn. Beers very heavy strings, a mountain climbing skinny theme. Arkansas, so withdrawn. It's been too long to see these memories. Open skies, don't apologize for last time. A fire burning behind a home, horses roaming all alone. Stay in the middle of me, unknown, a natural state. Fire burning behind a home, horses roaming all alone. Stay in the middle of the unknown, a natural state. She calls home. She calls home. She calls home. She Fire burning behind a home, horses roaming all alone. Stayed in the middle of the unknown, a natural state she calls home.
Very nice, man. I like that. That's the one you played on the Mufic video as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, thank you.
Looking forward to the music video on that.
Me too, man. I can't wait to see what it's going to be about.
So that first record, is it something where you go back, and of course you're going to go back and say, I wish I would have done this better, I could have done this differently, but is it still something you can say like, yeah, that's still me, that represents me?
Absolutely. I mean, look, records they're like time capsules. I mean, that's what you sounded like that year. That's what you were feeling like. That's where you were in your life. You know, I think I'm going to make more songs. Well, actually, I don't know. I think I might do one more record.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just getting better and better at recording myself.
Yeah.
I think that if I went into a recording studio with somebody else or a new producer, I'd definitely feel more comfortable. It would probably take me 3 takes to get to what I need to instead of like 20.
Well, there's a good and a bad to going in studios. Number one is one of the bad is you're on the clock, and if you don't deliver within the time you have, you are either stuck with something inferior, or you pay more money to give it another whack.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is when you have unlimited time and unlimited takes, and we're not paying for analog tape, it's just megabytes. That you can also be caught in a loop of endless choices, and endless choices can be paralyzing in a way, especially the way that musicians tend to obsess over the details on things.
Yeah. I mean, that first album, I didn't do any harmonies or overdubs. It's just straight my voice.
Yeah.
And then I brought people in to do harmonies for me because I just couldn't do it at the time.
Yeah.
I had just taught myself over time. Now I can pretty much almost do any harmony I hear. I can't do it in real time. I have to listen to it first and then record it. Like my drummer, man, he could do harmony on the spot.
Really?
Just like, oh man, he's like the best.
Just knows where it goes.
Of course, man.
He
can ride that wave, man, and just hit those notes.
Yeah.
I wish I had that talent. It's a craft you learn, man. It's just like anything else. You just got to practice. But I can't remember where I was going with this. I was going to say something, and I can't remember.
You'll think of it.
I'll think of it.
Second record, Truthfully.
Yeah.
So Kevin Church produced.
Yeah.
Did you record a lot of it at your place, or
everything was recorded at my place?
Everything. Place.
We started in January of 2021. We had talked about in late 2020. Hey, Kevin, I want to do this folk record. I want to do nothing but real instruments.
Yeah.
I want it to sound raw, folky.
Yeah.
I want it to be completely different than anything I've done before.
And I want it to sound like people in a room playing.
Yeah, I want it to sound like Yeah. So we brought in my drummer Marky to do all the drums.
Yeah.
Brett Bellinger on bass, upright bass. It's all acoustic instruments. Nothing. I mean, there's a couple songs with electric guitar on there.
Sure.
But a lot of acoustic. Like I said, harmonies done by me. Very just raw sounding. A lot strings. There's real strings on there.
I was going to ask.
Those are real strings.
Yeah, very nice. Who played those?
Michael Williams played the violin, and then Karen Egan played the viola, and we have Caitlin Tarber on the cello.
Very nice.
Yeah,
sounds great, man.
Thank you.
Like what songs stand out to you on that record?
Man, so the last song on that record, which I wrote about, basically the pandemic and my stepson, just getting away from life and just hitting the road, traveling together, which is one of my favorite things to do, is be in the car with him and just getting out of there. It's called Lead the Way, just about traveling the country together, getting away from real life. That's one of my favorite songs I've ever written. A lot of people seem to like that one.
Nice.
Let's see. In the Daylight, that's one of my favorite songs on that album because it talks about life, like truth life. I mean, at the time when I'd recorded the album and before that, I basically never saw my wife during the day, just at night.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one actually. I figured out what that one was about. Yeah. Yeah, just so busy on the grind. Your ship's passing in the night. Yeah.
There's a song called Junk for John Kirkpatrick, which is about my father-in-law.
Okay.
He's a woodsman. He's a woodworker.
Uh-huh.
And he really enjoyed that. We made a video for that at the Freehouse place.
Yeah, excellent.
At Freehouse Brewery. And let's see. Those are the standout songs.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of... I love every song that I've put on that album. So,
Good. I talk to people sometimes who are like, I'm going to go take everything I did and try to stricken it from the face of the world. And I was like, well, it's a snapshot of where you were at the time. I mean, it be what it be.
I mean, I just think of, you got to really love your songs if you're going to put them out there, because they're going to be out there forever.
Sure.
So make sure that you really, really love the songs before you release them, because you're going to look back and be like, oh man, why the hell did I write that song? Why did I release that? I mean, even famous people have that. John Lennon had a lot of songs that he considered throwaways, and I consider them masterpieces.
I feel like too, there's a bit of a, people feel pressure these days to be very prolific because of how immediate the internet is and social media is. And there are people that feel like if I'm not putting out a record or a new song or a new video or a new thing, I'm going to be forgotten about. Or you also see everybody else and they're doing all the things and you're like, I got to do a thing. And ultimately you don't. People aren't going to hold things against you if you take a little bit longer just making your thing perfect. Yeah.
I mean, people do have short attention spans these days, but, take your time with your music. Don't rush it out. But then again, if you think it's ready, if you think it's complete and it sounds good, get it out there.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, ultimately, people should work at their own pace and not have that influenced by other people. You know what I mean? If I was trying to pace everything I'm doing off of what you're doing, I would be pretty down in the dumps because, I mean, you're just busy, man. And you also have a very strong social media presence. Like your Instagram and Facebook and YouTube game is pretty top notch.
Well, I learned that from a lot of these mentors, a lot of these people, these motivational speakers. Like, hey, social media is the television of the 2020s, or the 2010s. It's the internet of the 20, because the internet boom in the 90s. Well, this is it, man.
Oh yeah.
Work with the times. I've got some friends that have some massive followers. I mean, they've got like 9,000 followers. I've only got 2,100 followers on Instagram. So it's not that I just put out the content, and if people want to react to it, great. If not, I move on.
Well, it's been effective. I'll tell you, man, you're killing it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
When it comes to actually writing songs, we didn't talk much about your singles. We did a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. 8 singles, very different stylistically one to the next. A lot of different collaborations with other local musicians. Mm-hmm. Give them all a listen. It's fantastic, man. You really run the gamut on everything, and from a production standpoint, you're really up in your game. I think even if you do things in other styles, it's all learning. The best part about production is you can sit there and go, man, I finally got that kick to sound like I wanted that kick to sound. It's
people ask me that I work with, that I write songs with. Like, for example, Irene Rose, who's a beautiful human being. She writes some of the best melodies I have ever heard in my life. She's like, how did you learn how to do all this? She's got Logic on her computer now. Yeah. She's trying to learn herself. You just got to sit there and do it every day. Yeah. You learn something new with the program every day. You don't, you can take a class, you can go on YouTube, you can read a book. That's great. Perfect. You can do that. But to really learn how to do it, you just got to sit there and do it every day. It's like learning a language. You got to speak it every day.
It's nice to have YouTube and forums though. Yeah. Also, because a lot of time you'll be like, I want to hear a thing. How can I hear this thing? And YouTube will tell you. It'll say, if you listen to what you're doing and you say, well, I want to hear this. How do I achieve that? Mm-hmm. It's great these days. I mean, it's a home recordist's world we live in these days.
There's no excuse. Every musician should have some sort of recording device, some sort of DAW in their house. I mean, you should be putting out original music. I mean, whether it's guitar instrumentals or just little pieces of music, composing, doesn't matter. Do something creative.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck on a hamster wheel playing these gigs every single week, man. And then you got to do something creative. You know, whether it's a hobby or not, just go out and make music. You know, when I first became a full-time musician, I just wanted to play gigs, really.
Yeah.
I just wanted to pay the bills, play gigs, have fun.
Well, they generate instant money.
Yeah, they generate instant money. Then you kind of like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm setting my goals. I want to do something more. I need to feed my soul a little more. I want more. And that's where the music came in. And that's where the original music came in. It was time to do it. And then I was like, all right, now I'm going to get a Logic Pro. I'm going to get a Mac. I'm going to set up a studio. Now I've got all these awesome plugins, all this hardware, these Neves, these Neumann microphones. I've got all these. I just got everything I need. It's such a joy to have all this musical equipment around.
It can be a slippery slope of gear acquisition.
Oh God,
just
man.
Because ultimately, like, the Beatles did it on 2 tracks. Eventually they did it on 4 tracks. And at most they did it on 8 tracks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ultimately you got to have a good song. No amount of tweaking or quantizing or pitch correcting or nothing's going to save a bad song, I don't think.
No. You can record a really good song on bad equipment, but it's really tough to take a bad song and on really good equipment and make it sound good.
Yeah. Absolutely. When it comes to your own songwriting, is it all just trying to catch it as it goes by, or do you say you sit for a few hours every day? Do you sit specifically to songwrite?
Yeah. It's more of like producing. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Like it's songwriting, producing. It's 4 hours of just sitting there trying to come up with melodies and beats and learning Logic. Sometimes I'll already have a melody or a guitar riff, and I work around that. Sometimes I'll pull up an old project and see what I can do with that. Let's see. The current song that I'm working on right now is got all real instruments, real drums. It's got... so basically, I had somebody in Los Angeles record somebody playing drums. Just like, I was like, here's the tempo, here's how long I want it to be, here's the structure. Or just do use a lot of toms here, use just the hi-hat here, and I put it all together and created a song. Then I picked up the bass and started coming with a cool bass line, and then I turned on my twin reverb, got the delay, hit some guitar chords, and then I had this melody, and it just kind of built like that.
Okay.
But sometimes they don't all come out like that. Sometimes I already have I'll tell you what, the best way to write a song is have the chorus first.
Yeah.
That is the icing on the cake right there. That's the best way to write a song, is if you have the chorus first, it's so much easier because you can write around that. Yeah. Oh man,
everybody talks about a hook and what have you, and it's every song that I write has got to have some sort of structure to it. A hook. It's got to have a nice melody, a beginning, middle, and an end. Now, for me, lyrics, that's my weakness right there. That's just what I need to work on. Yeah. That's what I need. I'm not a very good lyricist, but I'm working to become one. I just work at it every day. Just keep writing and writing and writing. I know my problem with lyrics, and I'm a super slow songwriter, and it's because I call it the goalie.
Yeah.
Not much gets past the goalie, man. I'll put a line out, and I know that line should just be a placeholder.
Yeah.
But instead of letting that thing be a placeholder and just moving on, I'm like, nah, no good. Throw it out, start over. And that's no way to get things done. Do you,
man,
how do you deal with your goalie or your editor, as it were?
Well, I've got a songwriting coach right now. I'm about to take another songwriting. I'm trying to take lessons again for lyrics, for songwriting. I go to school for it now, on Zoom, online. I get chewed out almost every week for the lyrics I write. This is what you should be writing about. I mean, it's 80% there. Okay. Yeah. There's a little part of it that still needs a lot of work. But yeah, I mean, everybody that reads my lyrics has something to say. Like, this is what you should do. This is what you should say. Yeah. change this here and there, and then I've got some people that kind of ghostwrite for me. Not ghostwrite, but they just kind of edit here.
Sure.
Yeah. But
sometimes it kind of helps having somebody in mind that you're looking to impress.
Yeah.
Because that's going to like up your game, and it's going to kind of force your hand, and it's
I've got a filter system.
Yeah.
Where I give it to 4 people and they read it. So I've got somebody, really good friend of mine, blue collar worker, average Joe kind of guy. Then I've got a computer nerd kind of guy that looks at it. Then I've got Irene to look at it, who's the ultimate person that looks at it.
Sure.
And then my buddy Vince, who will give it to me straight up, to tell me if it sucks or not. So
you got to have it, man. Brutal honesty. As long as somebody is grown up enough to accept it, it matters.
Yeah. Have a filtration system, guys. Yeah. If you want to get a good song, have about 4 or 5 people listen to it. Also, have a vision board for your goals. Look at it every day.
Okay. Every day.
Yeah. Because it'll get stuck in your mind and you'll want to do it. Otherwise, you'll get very complacent and you'll get lazy, man.
I've noticed, especially listening to your records and your singles, you write a lot of what you write. I would just say is nonfiction. A lot of it's about you.
Yeah.
A lot of it's about your life. Now, do you have trouble writing about something that's not about you?
Yeah, it's difficult. Like, it's hard for me to write about something that's not personal or something. I can't write about, I like, for example, I could never write like what Paul McCartney does, writes about, meter maids or a Maxwell silver hammer.
Sure, sure.
It's hard for me to write about something that I can't connect to. However, I need to learn how to do that.
Yes, but with like the point to where you're not reaching for buzzwords. Yeah. Like what I always find myself bumping up against is I play more of like in a folk Americana sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And there is a definite buzzword list in Americana. I mean, you sing about going down to railroad tracks and you sing about whippoorwills and stuff like that. Yeah,
there's a style to it.
But I found I don't want to do that. Like I wouldn't sing about going down to a railroad track if I haven't. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's my own thing I need to get over, but
well, I live in Park Circle and I hear trains every day, so I can relate to, I can relate to those, hear those Americana records. I got to get to a point where I can write about anything. I mean, there's going to be it's going to be a little autobiographical. Yeah. Anything I write.
There's got to be a shred of something you at least connect with.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've written that it's not. No, I don't think there is.
When you start writing a song, is there ever a point where you're like, okay, on this one, I'm channeling such and such?
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's see. John Prine, I was channeling John Prine with my song John Kirkpatrick.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. I mean, I'm always channeling somebody, whether it's John Mayer is a big influence on my newest album. So he did an album called Born and Raised. I really wanted to write something very similar to that. If you listen to Born and Raised, it's a very Americana folky album. Channeling Bob Dylan a lot, John Lennon, Paul McCartney. I mean, anybody I'm influenced by. I was channeling this song that I have called My Best. It's got a lot of horns and organ. I was channeling a lot of Stevie Wonder, a lot of gospel-y kind of influenced players. A lot of, Ed Sheeran, even some sort of pop song that I hear, like Call Me Maybe, I can definitely influenced by that.
Sure.
It's very hooky, very pop, very just
Do you ever start with the influence? Do you ever hear a song and you go, I should try something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
I mean, the way I start with songs is I want it to have a great melody. I want it to be hooky. That's what I start with.
Yeah.
Whether it's a piece of music or the melody, it's got to be hooky. It's got to be memorable. So
awesome.
that's the way of writing.
Are there any songs out there that you consider to be just the pinnacle of songs?
Yeah.
Of songwriting or recording or?
Yeah, there's 2 songs that I think are the perfect songs. Okay. Yep. I think there's nothing wrong with. Actually, there's 3 now.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are by the same artist. Okay, so there's 2 songs by Adele that I think are the perfect songs. Someone Like You and Easy on Me. I think those 2 songs, there's nothing wrong. Like it's so well written, the melody, the lyrics, the production. And strangely enough, a song by Jewel called You Were Meant for Me. These lyrics are so freaking brilliant. And the melody, I mean, I just get goosebumps every time. I mean, those 3 songs, you would never suspect that I would think those were the perfect songs, but I think those are the perfect songs.
That's awesome, man. One of my first concerts I actually saw Jewel.
Yeah.
And then Steve Poltz opened for her, and Steve Poltz wrote a lot of songs with her, and he actually co-wrote You Were Meant for Me.
Really?
And seeing that, Steve Poltz opened, and Jewel had the band, and it was a big deal and everything, but he opened, and he was by himself with a guitar, and that was actually the first time that I saw somebody by themselves with an acoustic guitar and go, oh, wow, you can do that.
Yeah.
Because it was at an amphitheater. It was 15,000 people were there.
Wow.
And here's a guy with an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
A little tipsy, telling stories about how he wrote songs. And I didn't know you could tell a story about how you wrote a song.
15,000 people?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they were into it. So, yeah, that's funny you should say that. Because, yeah.
I saw John Mayer in 2002 at the Music Farm. Just him and an acoustic guitar. That was crazy.
Yeah.
And then I saw Ed Sheeran with just an acoustic guitar open up for Taylor Swift back in 2013 in Columbia in a stadium. So
being able, it's often been said that some of the best songs can be sat down and played on an acoustic guitar. Yep. And don't get me wrong, I love kitchen sink production. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it when you can hear all the things and put on headphones and hear more things. I also love when a guitar can drive an entire song. And I really love songs that can do both.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to those 3 songs that I mentioned that I think are perfect, the 2 of them are very minimally produced. And then one of them's kind of not really produced at all. I mean, there's, drums and bass, but those 2 Adele songs are mainly just vocal and piano.
Yeah.
So it's just very stripped down. But yeah, I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to do nothing but acoustic. I mean, I have an idea to do acoustic, vocal, and string quartet music.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to drop $500 sometime next year and get the Spitfire string quartet plug-in because it sounds so real.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hiring these people that, I got to work around their schedule. They got to work around my schedule.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do it, man. I'm just going to drop the $500, save the time and money from hiring somebody. I mean, I love hiring real musicians, but man, time is of the essence, man. Time is a factor.
I gotcha. If I had to put you on the spot and say, name 5 songwriters that are your favorite. It can be 4, it can be 6. But
let's go with Lennon McCartney.
Yep.
Max Martin.
Yep.
Let's see. John Mayer.
Yep.
Ryan Tedder, great songwriter from One Republic.
Yep.
Charlie Puth, great songwriter of pop music. We got Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. You know who those are?
Yeah.
From the 80s, 90s music. Those guys are great. Holland Dozier Holland, the Motown writers.
Yeah.
They wrote all the Motown, pretty much not all the Motown hits, but a lot of the Motown hits. Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yeah.
Now, all these songwriters are all pretty much also artists too, but not all of them.
Sure.
If we're going for like strictly just songwriter, I mean, I don't know, Max Martin.
Yeah.
Holland Dozier Holland. But there you have it.
Excellent, man. Excellent. So you say you're going to fly out tomorrow and do a music video?
Well, I'm flying out tomorrow I'm going on vacation, 5-day rest.
And while you're there.
And while I'm there, because I'm there, I'm going to knock it out. I'm going to do a video on Monday morning.
What else are you working on?
That's it. I mean, right now at the time.
Yeah.
I'm working on like 3 different songs
Everything.
all the time. Yeah. I mean, I
gotcha.
I'm always going to work on music until I wake up and say I can't do this anymore and I give up. So,
man, I'm really glad you're taking the time to do this podcast with me.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that you're going to be here on January 23rd at Freehouse Brewery with Dan Riley and Scotty Oliver. You know those guys at all?
I know Dan Riley. I know him. I don't know Scott. Do I know Scott Eller?
You should meet Scotty. He's a good guy. Part of my plan of this podcast is not only to get to meet people that I normally don't get to meet, and I also get to make them come to my house, which means I don't even have to drive. But yeah, I get to meet new people and make new relationships with local musicians and introduce them to each other. And hopefully this becomes a way that the average Joe out there in Charleston hears original music and they know where to find it. So man, I'm really excited for January 23rd. You care to leave us with one more tune?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you.
We met at a time in my life when I wasn't sure if I would find the love that would mean so much more. But you took me by surprise. Where have you been all my life? Just wanna be your best friend and make your day. So hard to find the one, but then you came my way. Feeling your honest love is the only way to live. Running away with me is all you have to give. I know how hard it seems, but it feels so right. Give me your honest love, 'cause I need it tonight. Three years have passed. It's safe to say we've had our ups and downs, but let me promise you, I'll always be around. I've waited for you all these years, and when I'm with you, time disappears. Time will always be the way I feel. It's you I love, and I always will. Feeling your honest love is the only way I live. Running away with me is all you have to give. I know how hard it seems, but it feels so right. Give me your honest love, 'cause I need it tonight. I still remember the first day we met. What you wore, what you said to me. There's not a single day I regret. And honestly, feeling your honest love is the only way I live. Running away with me is all you have to give. I know how hard it seems, but it feels so right. Give me your honest love, 'cause I need it tonight. Feeling your honest love is the only way I live. Running away with me is all you have to give. I know how hard it seems, but it feels so right. Give me your honest love, 'cause I need it tonight. 'Cause I need it tonight. 'Cause I need it tonight. 'Cause I need it tonight.
Chris Dodson, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for listening to Songs of the Unsung. Be sure to check us out at songsoftheunsung.com. We also have a Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube page. Videos from the last Songwriter Showcase are up on YouTube right now. Love it if you'd go over there, check it out, give it all the likes, shares, subscribes, all those good clicks help us out big time. And be sure to come to Freehouse Brewery on January 23rd to check out the next Songwriter Showcase. We will see you next time. Thank you so much.